All right, check 1, 2. How's the microphone sounding? All right, check 1, 2. That sounds pretty good. Let's get the camera thing going. Boom. There it is. There I am. Welcome to the Friday song feedback stream. That was an unreleased track that I've been sitting on for a long time that I should probably just put out there into the world because I do really like it. So welcome to another Friday feedback stream, whether you are watching us live right now on the YouTube or if you're watching this video later on, because all of these stream videos get uploaded to the channel. So the way the Friday feedback stream works, I usually, the start of each one of these feedback streams, I go over the kind of like general rules and guidelines and all that stuff. So first off, if you would like to send me a track, I'm going to post a link into the chat right now. Right there. And I'm going to pin it to the top of chat. So if you would like to send me a track, just click on that link. It'll take you to a spreadsheet. Just put the link to the track and your name and anything else you want to put in there. And I will get a listen to it. And it goes kind of like first come, first serve. There are a couple rules when it comes to sending me tracks that I'd like to go over at the start of each one of these videos. Number one, spacing out a little bit. Number one, original tracks only, please. So no remixes or anything like that for a couple of reasons. Number one, copyright. And number two, it's really hard for me to tell if I don't know the track that you're remixing, what song is yours, and what part of the song is yours, and what part of the song is part of the song you're remixing. So original tracks, I definitely would appreciate that. Other than that, ideally works in progress. So ideally a track that you are still working on that you is not yet finished. That way you can take that feedback and actually go back and work on your track some more. You can send me finished tracks if you want to. However, you're probably not going to go back to a finished track that's already been released out in the world and tweak it and fix it. But you're more than welcome to if that's what you got. Other than that, generally as a rule, if you are going to be sending tracks to me for feedback, I would like you to also participate in the conversation. So when other people are sending in their tracks and wanting feedback, it's not just me talking into the camera, it's the whole community all kind of helping each other out and working together to help everybody get better. That's really kind of the whole idea here. Other than that, what else I'm missing? When it does come to feedback, it's good or I like it don't really count as feedback unless you can explain why. It doesn't need to be super technical. You don't need to be like, you need to EQ your snare at 300 hertz. It can be really general. It doesn't need to be like super specific. On top of that, all skill levels, all genres, all styles are totally welcome. So wherever you're at in your creative journey, you are more than welcome here. And I think lastly, maybe second to last, only one song at a time, depending on how things go. Sometimes I get really busy and backed up with lots of tracks. Sometimes it's pretty much whenever you send me a track is when I get to listen to it. But one song at a time, and that way everybody who wants to share a track can send me a track. And if we have time at the end of stream, we can do multiple tracks for individuals if you should want to. And now, lastly, if you cannot make it to the stream, I do this on Fridays, every Friday. If you can't make it to the stream live, you can submit a track early before the stream even happens by going to the Discord channel, which should be linked below. Go to the Discord channel, get in there, and the spreadsheet that I have linked for submitting tracks will always be there. You'll always have access to it. And then you can just put in tracks anytime you want during the week. And if you can't make it to a Friday feedback stream, you can always take a look at the video later on. So you're always welcome to pop in there and then watch the video to hear your feedback whenever you want. I have been enjoying doing these feedback streams a lot. I might bump these up to twice a week, maybe, but we'll see. We'll see how schedules kind of change in the near future. Maybe this fall I'll do 2 feedback streams a week. But yeah, that's kind of it. That's kind of the idea here. Feedback is always free. So I just do this for fun and because I really enjoy doing it. It's a great way to connect with the community. However, if you would like to support the channel, you can, you don't have to pay me anything, but you could hit the like button, subscribe button, share button, tell your friends. That stuff is super helpful. If you want to support me financially, you can do super chats in the chat now, which is super cool. That's a new feature. Or you can check out the Patreon page that I have also just recently set up, and we start putting some more content on there. What's up, Ganya? How you doing? Welcome, welcome. Yeah, so Ganya's got a track for me. It sounds like a TikTok track. Yeah, pop it in the spreadsheet and I will take a look at it. Oh, there it is. All right, let me pull this up here. It's the first time I've had somebody submit a track to TikTok. Let me make sure the audio is all working and everything. All right, let's restart this bad boy. Set the volume. It's just you playing on your oven. I think this has potential. Nice. I thought that was actually kind of dope. I think so. First off, I love when people use found sounds when they like just take a microphone around and record things around their house or go for a walk, down the street and just record different sounds that they can find and then integrate that into their music. I think it's a really fantastic way to get original sounding samples. And I think the lighter on your stove making that sound and using that as kind of like a click track or kind of like as a little percussion in there is a fantastic idea. And I highly encourage you to do more stuff like that. Like people don't realize that like there's sounds everywhere all around you and they can inspire you in very different creative ways. And I think there's something really sterile, something really not inspiring about sample pack samples in a lot of situations. Because they tend to be like a little generic, whereas, your squeaky door in your house might have a really cool, interesting tonal quality to it. And then you take that and then run that through a bunch of effects. And then all of a sudden you have like a really cool, weird bass line or something like that. But yeah, so yeah, this is definitely super fun, but I think it's like, that's cool. Fun is good in production and thinking of creative ways to use the world around you for samples is 100%. I'm in favor of it. Did you make the rest of the track too? The track that's playing in the background? I'm assuming you did. Yeah, if you got a track for the sample pack challenge, yeah, you're more than welcome to toss it in the spreadsheet. So if anybody else is just joining us, I see a few people are. You are more than welcome to toss a link in the spreadsheet, and I will take a listen to it as soon as you put it in there. But yeah, Ganya, you can send me the sample pack challenge if you want. I'm super open to hearing it. I think for your TikTok track, though, you should get more sounds from around your house and then include those as part of the song. Yeah, no worries. How are you doing today? How's life in Russia? What part of Russia are you from? I was in Russia in 2004 and I had a great time. It was very cold though. But yeah, so as of right now, since we're waiting for one more track from Ganya to upload, there are no other tracks in the spreadsheet. And so if you are watching us, if you're out there in the internet world and would like to send a track, just click on the link that is pinned to the top of the chat, and then you put your link in the spreadsheet, and that's how I take a listen to your track. Welcome to everybody who is just joining us. We did not have anybody submit tracks early today. So I'm going to hang out and probably start making some weird sounds, doing a little bit of sound design, and just screwing around for a little bit, and just waiting for people to send me tracks. If you are enjoying the stream, if you're liking what's going on, I also do a stream on Tuesdays where I do more kind of like Q&A. I call it Ableton office hours, where people can just ask me questions about anything related to music production. So you're also welcome to ask me questions here if you are so inclined. But as of right now, I have finished the one song in the spreadsheet, the one TikTok in the spreadsheet. Bam, bam. Well, all right, so let's go ahead and we're going to start just making some sounds. Hopefully this should be... Sweet. So any kind of sounds you guys want me to make? Any requests? I want to make some just like weird psychedelic noises. That's kind of the feeling that I'm in today. So we're going to use echo and the phaser. We're going to turn those up. And we're going to do a little band pass. That's kind of what I'm thinking, something like that. So we'll do a little slow envelope on the filter frequency. And make this longer and this longer. Toss some unison on it because unison makes everything better. And we want some distortion on this thing. All right, I'm already liking this. And if anybody is just joining us, if you would like to send me a track, the spreadsheet is pinned to the top of chat. Just toss your link in there and I will take a listen to it. And as of right now, I'm just making some weird noises. We need less flanger. We want more feedback and less delay time. Even more feedback. That phaser, or that, yeah, the phaser is way too much. All right, and let's get another oscillator involved. Kind of like that. And let's put that envelope on oscillator 2 position. And let's pitch this one up an octave. All right, so Ganti just sent me a demo without mastering and mixing at the idea stage. We're glad to hear your words about the idea. Cool, perfect. That's actually where I like it the best. When it's like still in the idea phase, that's the best time to get feedback on it. So we will check this out. And you guys, if there's anybody else out there, I can see that there are a few people out there watching. You are more than welcome to toss a link in the spreadsheet. All right, we'll give this a minute to load here. Hope you guys are having a lovely, I'm assuming Friday, wherever it is you live, maybe Saturday. Nice, I like the use of the arpeggiators. Nice. I think that's really cool. I think there's a lot of things I think are really strong about this track that are working really well. I think the drums are sounding pretty clean and pretty polished. I love the kind of pulsing bass line you have going on. If you had a little bit more variety in the bass line, that would probably be good, but I don't think that's not a huge deal. I feel like the place that this needs the most work is what you're doing with the violins and the strings. I like what you're doing, but I feel like it could be developed a little bit more, particularly with the plucked violin. It sounds like you have a bunch of delay on it, and I like the use of delay, but it also it makes it sound a little too chaotic. It's hard to really tell what's going on with those plucked strings. So maybe a little bit, keep the delay, but maybe a little bit less of it, I think will be really helpful to make those pluck strings feel more present in the song and I think make a little bit more sense. So that was my big thing. I really liked a lot of the rest of it. Yeah, these parts are cool. Yeah, it's that pluck string. I feel like it sounds a little bit out of place. All of the rest of the sounds, the more kind of like long chord strings, feel like they make sense, but the plucked ones are feeling a little strange. What's up, Dorward? Yeah, I kind of agree. I think the transitions were okay. I'm not sure if this is the kind of song where it needs like really big tension release moments. It feels to me more kind of like a steady, chill vibe, which I think is totally fine. I like this part a lot. Yeah, I think the big thing is the echoing plucked strings. I feel like need a little bit of massaging, a little bit of work to fit into the song, and make the whole thing feel more cohesive. All of the rest of the sounds feel like they fit together, and that one sound seems a little bit out of place to me. But yeah, I really like it. I think it's a cool foundation for a track. I think it seems like a nice, solid kind of sketch. There were a few parts where the mix sounded a little distorted. It sounded like you were clipping a tiny bit. But you said you hadn't gone and mixed it yet, so that's totally fine. But I'll just watch out for that. There's a couple moments where things were a little clipping. But yeah, I think it's a super, super cool track. All of the stuff you've shared with me so far in previous streams has this really cool, it's like, it has a dark vibe to it, but it's not like really, really dark. So it's like, it's this nice middle ground where it's kind of like a little dark and a little sinister, but also not like over the top dark, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. Which is it's a cool place to be. But yeah, that's a cool track. Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it. What's up, email? How you doing today? Evening, afternoon, late at night, wherever you are. I think it's late at night for you, or fairly late at night. Sweet. So I see a few more people have joined us. If you would like to share your track, please feel free to toss it in the spreadsheet that is linked up at the top of chat. As of right now, we are all caught up on songs. So if you put a song in the spreadsheet right now, you'll get your song played on stream pretty much immediately. Hope everybody is doing well this evening. Hopefully made some music this week. Maybe, potentially, hopefully. Wait, well, that is that track. We got some more tracks coming in. Feel free to put your guys' YouTube names in the thing that says YouTube name, just so I know whose track is whose. Makes it a little easier for me. So we got another track. Let me pause this and get this thing going. Oh, this is another track from Ganya. All right, well, Ganya is going to be showboating it until other people send me tracks. Amari, you just put something in the chat, and then there's if you mouse over it, there's the 3 little icons, or the 3 little dots that are the icon. You just click on that, and that allows you to pin things in your chat. That way, everybody can see what's going on. Emo, I have spent a little bit of time with VS. I actually haven't bought it yet. I'm still using the demo version, and so I'm going to buy it in the near future, probably next couple weeks, and then I'm going to like really dive into it, and then probably make a video for the channel on like all the secrets that I find out. But I've poked around a little bit in VS, but not enough to have anything like remarkable to share with it. But I still think it's a legit plugin. I think it's super cool. All right, so here's another track from Gontia. Yeah, Duarte, if you want to bounce out the track and then send it to me, you're more than welcome to. There's a link that's pinned at the top of chat. Just click on that, takes you to a spreadsheet, and put the link in there. Well, that's a good idea, Hima. I should tell you put the link in the description. I'll do that in a second. This is a cool track. I like it a lot. I think that similar to some of your other tracks that you've sent in, Ganya, I want the arrangement to shift and grow and change a little bit more over time. In this situation, the bass line is super cool, but as far as I can tell, it doesn't change the whole song. Yeah, it changes in like very minor ways. So I think that like having that shift and change a little bit, do little different things, different rhythms could be really helpful. The same thing with, there's a little arpeggiated sound. No. That guy is cool, but I think he could be cooler. And he could be cooler by, again, doing more kind of shifting, changing things over time. So at some points it sounds one way, some points it sounds another way. Or doing a little bit more sound design in there. Right now it sounds kind of like a generic electric piano kind of preset, which is not bad. I don't mind it. But I think you could do some you could take that sound some interesting directions, and I think it would fit well into the track. So those are my two big things, was the bass line is cool, but needs a little bit more variety. And then this arpeggiated part. It's not bad, but a little bit more sound design, and or a little bit more of it changing, maybe shifts octaves here and now, or here and then, or it just does more things. I think that would be really, really useful. Other than that, I think as far as the mix goes, it sounds pretty clean. Drums, your drums pretty much always sound great, so no real feedback on the drums. I think, I don't know if you mastered this or somebody else mastered it. To me, I need to check this with like a reference track or something like that. I think you could probably push the master a little bit harder. I think this track could be potentially a little bit louder, and I wouldn't mind that, or compressed a little bit more, and I wouldn't mind that. But yeah, those are kind of my main piece of feedback. Yeah, Jason, so you are 100% welcome to share tracks that are neither mixed nor mastered. In fact, it's encouraged. Works in progress, any genre, any experience level are all welcome here. So whatever you got, that's what we want to hear, because that's when the feedback means the most. But yeah, chat, got any other thoughts or feedback on this track? I agree with Emo. It has like a nice, tight, clean vibe to it. Could be a little bit louder and a little bit more variety in a couple of the sounds, but I think it sounds really good. I like this big reverb crash we have right here. More little things like that reverb crash that happens, could be really cool to also help kind of like break up the arrangement a little bit. But yeah, I think it sounds really good. I appreciate you sharing that. Also, I would also like to encourage anybody else who is in chat that if you have thoughts or feedback or ideas or comments for other people, those are also highly encouraged, especially if you are going to be sharing your own track. We got a track from Dig the Cat here.
1. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Five, 4, 3, 2.
What's up, Kevin? Good to see you, or read you, I guess, in this case. Nice. That's super cool. It definitely has this kind of like early 90s rave vibe to it, but also still sounds modern, which is like a cool, interesting combination of styles. So there's a lot of things I like about this track a lot. I think the countdown works pretty well here. I think some of the weirder sound effects that you're using to kind of fill in space also work really well to kind of like give it this kind of goofy, silly vibe on it. But yeah, I think it's overall vibe wise, I think it's working. I think that a lot of the things I was noticing in here are either arrangement based or they're mix based. And you had said you hadn't mixed it yet, but there's a few things I just wanted to point out so that way when you do start mixing, you kind of have a direction you can go with it. So first off, your kick drum to me, it's kind of in this weird place where it sounds, let me see if I can find some. The kick to me sounds over compressed while simultaneously being too quiet. So I think if you turn the volume up on the kick and then reduce some of the compression on it, you'll get a bit more of a dynamic kick that will also be much clearer in the mix. Because right now, it sounds compressed, but it also sounds very far away. And you don't want your kick to sound far away. You want your kick to sound right up front in your mix. So that would be definitely something I would take a look at pretty early on. The other thing as far as like mixing goes was a lot of the kind of like weirder high pitched sound effects I think are a little bit too loud. I think they if they were a little tiny bit quieter in the mix, they would fit in and kind of create this nice back and forth between your different bassline sounds and then your different high pitch sounds. Like this, here everything sounds pretty good. And then occasionally you have a couple ones that are too loud. Where was it? Yeah, like that guy right there. That guy's a little bit too loud there. And so it kind of like, it stands out a little bit in the mix. And then as far as the arrangement goes, I really like the use of the countdown. I think it works really well. However, use the countdown. Like here, this is super cool. This works really well.
2, 1.
So the countdown finishes, and then we have to wait all this time before things actually come in again, which I thought was an interesting creative choice in terms of how you're doing that kind of thing back into the drums. To me, it seemed like a little bit too much empty space between one and when the drums come back in. That might be a creative choice that you have just chosen and you like and you want to stick with, in which case go with it. But that to me felt a little awkward. When you do it again over here somewhere, you get to the one and you can just cut it right down to the bass line. And so I think it kind of works a little better. So you have the one and then you have this little bit of silence into just the bass line. And that to me felt like it flowed and transitioned in a way that it made a little more sense, even though the drums don't come until later. Other than that, I do feel like some of the use of the repeating of the numbers, some of them work really well, and sometimes it gets a little bit repetitive. And so I think if you're going to be sampling Thunderbirds here, try sampling other things from the same source, and then that way it's not just numbers, but you could have like other words or phrases from the same voice from the same source. And that could be a good way to add like a little bit of diversity in terms of the vocal samples that you're using. Are you talking about after the first countdown?
3, 2, 1.
I think the issue is partially the volume. Is it the same thing over here? I think it's partially just the bass line. I think this bass line is just cooler than... Yeah, this bass line sounds like it's like filtered or something a little bit. So maybe take off the filter and then just make sure that when it comes in, it's like that part's super loud, and that could work really well. But here, like it kind of starts quiet and then gets louder over time. Whereas this one, it just comes in at its volume. Yeah, or maybe add in sprinkling some extra vocal samples in there, something kind of like spice up that little area. Other than that, I feel like the rest of it kind of flowed together really well. I loved all the uses of sounds in this section in particular. And I love the little horn stabs, also work great. The outro, outros I think in this kind of music are not like super important in terms of like making the whole arrangement work. The outro just felt like, okay, here's the drums with a few more sound effects. So if you wanted to dial in the outro a little bit and maybe tweak that up and make it have a little more personality, that would be cool. But it's the outro for a house track. I don't think it needs to be like crazy complex. But yeah, I think it's a cool track. I think, like I said, I think it's got a cool, interesting style to it that I think is definitely worth exploring and definitely worth like figuring out exactly how I want it to be. But yeah, I liked it a lot. I appreciate you sharing that. Next up, we got Mert. Mert, so it looks like you sent me a WeTransfer link. If you could send me a link where I could stream it instead of having to download it. I just don't want to have to like download a bunch of files every week onto my computer. I'd rather just stream it. So I don't think I can just stream it directly from WeTransfer without downloading it. So you could upload it as like a private SoundCloud link, or you could upload it in Google Drive and just send me the link to that. Wherever is fine. I just want to be able to stream it instead of downloading it. But go ahead and see if you could update that and then just put it back into the spreadsheet, and then I will get back to it once you do that. Cool. Appreciate all the tracks that you guys are sending me. Before we get to Bossmo Web's track, well, this one's not found. So Harris, if you, I don't know if you deleted this or you got a new link or something in here, but if you could update the link, that would be useful for me, because otherwise I can't play it. So yeah, so while we're waiting for those guys to update their links, I do want to point out, if you are enjoying the feedback, if you're appreciating what we got going on here, feel free to hit the like button, tell your friends, subscribe if you're not already, any of that kind of stuff. If you want to help support the channel, you can either you can do super chats now, which is cool, in the chat, or you can also join the Patreon, which should be linked in the description below. That is brand new, and I need to start posting content into. Cool. I appreciate it. Perfect. So this track is from Mert. Damn, that's a super cool track. So love the vibe of it. Production sounds really solid. I like that it really takes its time. It's not like in a hurry to get you from one place to another. Like your intro is, it's like long and slow, but it kind of creates this much more laid back vibe for the whole rest of the track because you really have to be patient with it before you get to the part where the drums actually come in. So I like the arrangement quite a bit. I like the instrumentation a lot. I feel like if there was one more element in this song, I wouldn't mind it. To me, a little bit of guitar on top would be amazing. So like either some acoustic guitar or just somebody kind of like jamming out on a guitar could be fantastic as a way to kind of like round out all of the sounds. I don't think it's necessary, but if it were my track, that's probably the direction I would head with it. In terms of things that I think could be a little bit better, what stood out to me the most was the drum production. I think your kick sounded okay, but it sounded a little bit thin. And so I think probably your best bet for making your kick a little better is just layer it with another kick drum. I think that that would solve almost all your problems with your kick. Just find another kick that complements the kick you already have, play them both at the same time, and that'll do the trick. Kind of in a similar vibe with you have this kind of like clap snare kind of sound. I actually think that sounds nice and layered and sounds pretty good to me, but it does sound a little bit dry. So I think that a tiny hair of reverb on that could go a long way, just a little bit. But yeah, those two things in the drums I think will go a long way. Yeah, somebody in chat was mentioning adding some more hi-hats. I actually I wasn't sure about it first, but actually now listening to it, I think a few, maybe not necessarily hi-hats, but maybe like shakers, something else that adds like a slightly different rhythmic element, I think could go a long way. Not necessary, but I think it will definitely fit in to help kind of like add a little more groove, especially in like the second half over here. Just add a little shaker in there, like a little triplet shaker or something could go, that could be perfect. The other thing that I think could use a tiny bit of love is your bass line that comes in over here. I love the bass line. I think it's great. I think it's a hair too loud. I think in this style of music, I think if you're making like electronic music, your bass line is fine in terms of volume, but this has this very kind of like raw, natural acoustic kind of vibe. And in this situation, I think the bass line could be a tiny bit quieter, and I wouldn't mind that. And then I actually really like your kind of like sine wave palette cleanser outro. The only thing that I would change at the end of this is you have a few background sounds that are going on. I would maybe make them a tiny bit louder because right now there's this sine wave is just, or this one note on the electric piano is just taking up all the attention. So all of the little background details and things you have going on, bring them up a little bit in volume, and I think that'll make this whole section feel a little bit more alive, and I think it'll work really well. Yeah, I like this track a lot, though. I think you're crushing it. I think it sounds really good. I think just a couple little minor tweaks in there, and you should be good to go. Definitely has like kind of reminds me of Emancipator a little bit. I think somebody in chat said DJ Crush, which I totally agree with. Like some like old DJ Crush definitely has this kind of vibe. I'm curious to hear if you are planning on putting vocals on this or not. I personally think it sounds really good without the vocals, but I could also see arguments for tossing vocals on here, and that would be cool. If I was gonna put vocals, I'd make them very minimal though. I wouldn't have like a big, huge like verses and chorus, just like, you know, just a tiny bit of vocals on there if you want to go that direction. Yeah, super cool track. Hopefully, Mert, you're out there taking notes. All right. Now we got track from Harris. Yeah, no problem, Mert. Sick. I like this track a lot. I think it's got a lot of things going for it that are working really well. And I think there's a few kind of tiny things in here that might need a little bit of switching up it. And I think in the notes you said you're mostly looking for feedback on the first drop. You're feeling pretty good about the second drop, is, if I'm not mistaken, what you mentioned. So first off, let's talk about the builds, because I think the builds are where we're going to hear a lot of the things that I'm going to end up talking about in the long term. So we have this kind of like intro build. I think first off, what you're doing at the vocal sample is working really well. Don't really need to do anything about that. I think that's pretty sick. Same thing with the sound that's moving up and down. All right, so first thing I notice here is the drum beat that comes in. You got this kick and this kind of clappy snare sound. That's doing this kind of like drum and bass kind of rhythm. And I think the rhythm is working, but the sounds in the rhythm are not working for me. And I'm wondering if instead of using these particular samples, you found like a classic old school drum break, like an old school drum and bass drum break, like an amen break or something like that, and use that instead to create the same kind of rhythm, to create the same kind of energy, but using this more kind of like classic old school sampling technique way of doing it. I think that could be really cool if you want to go that direction with it. Yeah, I just think that like those two sounds don't fit that rhythm, which is kind of a weird thing. So you could swap out the samples themselves, or you could, like I said, replace it with like an actual drum break that you slice up and speed up to create this kind of like drum and bassy kind of intro slash build. All right. And I think I've identified the issue with the first drop is we need some more negative space. And there's one sound in particular in this drop that is taking up a lot of attention. And it's a really cool sound, and I think it should stay in there. But I think occasionally you should chop it out for an eighth note or a quarter note or a 16th note, just to give the audience a little bit of a break. And it's hard to describe exactly what this sound is. It sounds like a synth with like a weird LFO on the volume or filter that's doing this kind of choppy thing in the background. Like here you give a little tiny break from it, but I think more little breaks like that that are shorter and sprinkled throughout this whole drop. I think one of the big issues I've found when it comes to making drops that are really loud, or trying to make a drop that sounds really loud, is the more sounds you have playing simultaneously, the quieter each one of them has to be, because you can only get so loud with each one. So by having less sounds happening simultaneously, each one of those sounds can be louder. And I think that's the big issue in this drop here, and it's not as big of an issue in the other drop. You're jumping around between different sounds more in the other drop. So using negative space to make it so that when the kick happens, almost nothing else is happening. You could do like some really heavy side chains to do a kind of similar thing, but sometimes it's better just to like just chop sounds out when other sounds need to be really loud. So try doing that. Try using some negative space in here, kind of like you are in this little area here. Like that's a perfect example. More stuff like that, I think, will make this drop feel like the different sounds are, instead of being hit with a bunch of sounds at once, you're kind of like bouncing between different sounds. And I think that'll add more energy and make everything sound louder. So that's my big issue here. Yeah, I think I'm just also just not in love with your kick drum sample. It has like a really thuddy mid-range sound to it, which that might be something you want to stick with. But to me, the mid-range on the kick is a little bit too much. Yeah, this part's cool. Same issue though. I want to hear some classic drum and bass jump rhythms and samples in there. It'd be really cool. So here you're using space totally differently, and it works really well. I think my only issue with the second drop is I was expecting a triplet kick drum fill, and I don't think I ever got one. And so if you can find a spot in here where you can add, triplet kicks to do a little like dun dun dun, like a little like stutter kick fill, I think it would go really well. Yeah, need some triplet kicks in there. I love how the kick keeps changing and evolving and doing different things, but triplet kicks in this kind of drop, I think will make this drop perfect. And then so I also think you have this weird kind of hat. It's like a weird hat sample. That's really cool, but rhythmically chop it up, glitch it up, and then you're good to go. Because right now it's just doing that like eighth note. Yeah, those are my that's my feedback. I like this track a lot. I've been hearing a lot more tracks in this kind of style recently. This kind of like weird abstract bass music. I don't even know if there's a name, like a specific name for this kind of style. Let me know if there is, but I've been hearing a lot of artists become more successful with this kind of vibe in the last like 6 to 9 months. But yeah, sounds really cool. Give me those triplet kicks. Sweet. Thank you for sending me the tracks. So as of thus far, we've gotten through everybody. We got one more track from Ganya, but Ganya's already sent in a couple tracks today because he got here first and just kept sending me tracks. So I want to give a moment to see if there's anybody else who has not yet submitted a track who would like to send me one. Click on the link up at the top of the chat. That'll take you to the spreadsheet. The spreadsheet is where you send me your song. So we'll take some time before we get into the next track, just in case there are other people out there. But I appreciate all the songs you guys have been sending me. Every week, it's like we get all kinds of cool, different, weird stuff that I otherwise don't really get to hear. And if anybody can explain to me the genre for this, besides like, I guess like feature bass, maybe it's kind of feature bassy. Let me know what the genre is, so that way I know what I'm talking about when I listen to this kind of music. Yeah, man, the TR8's cool. Any of those kind of like drum machine hardware tools are just, they're just so much fun just to like jam out and just make a bunch of beats with. I'm getting really just burnt out on being in front of a screen all the time. So having a piece of hardware where I can just not have to look at a screen feels really good to me right now. Sweet. All right. Well, nobody else has sent me a track yet. Looks like there's a few people poking around the spreadsheet. So we're gonna do one more track from Ganya, but after that, Ganya, I'm cutting you off for the week. And I think you just said the first track is, this is a whole EP, but the first track is the one that we are going to take a listen to. Hyper rhythm. Interesting. That's I like that term. I don't like the term rhythm for reasons that we can get into later, but hyper feature bass, hyper melodic bass. Yeah, if you got another track, put it on the spreadsheet. Nice, another super cool track. So I'm hearing again some patterns from multiple tracks you've sent in, because I'm feeling similar feedback to a track you played earlier. So once again, the drums sound really solid. Don't need much to do there. Bass line also sounds really good, but it's the same bass line. It's the same bass line for the entire song. And so that bass line needs to change a little bit to keep me interested. So you have this big reset in here somewhere. This part, which sounds amazing. But when you start to build up and kind of like reintroduce all the drums and all the other sounds, make sure when the bass line comes back, it's doing something a little bit different. And that way it doesn't feel like, okay, we're just in the same kind of like loop zone, which I think is one of the big issues with a lot of electronic music. It just sounds like loops on top of loops on top of loops. So the bass line is where I notice that here the most. But I love the horns. I love the like harmonic minor kind of vibe. I like this use of the melody. I think probably the weakest part of this track to me was during the main drop. That melody part that has, it's kind of just like a call and response with the bass part and then the melody. I wasn't feeling that. It just didn't kind of fit in this kind of like Middle Eastern sandstorm at Burning Man kind of vibe the rest of the track has. So that one melodic part, I feel like, was not as cool as the rest of the track. Wasn't bad, it didn't sound bad, but it wasn't bringing me into the world that the rest of the track was. So if it were my track, I would probably get rid of that and maybe put something else in there. But I feel like that same sound, this little, you use to emulate the horns. Here it's great. Here I like it a lot. But when you're doing the back and forth, it for some reason just didn't vibe with me as much. But yeah, and other than that, I think everything like sounds really cool. Love this part a lot. Yeah, I think the call and response is the right idea, the back and forth, but the response to me was not fulfilling me the way I wanted it to. But yeah, again, super cool track. Just a few little minor kind of details here and there to dial it in. But I think it sounds really good. All right, we got another track from Harris. And once again, I would like to point out before we get into this track, what was I saying? Before we get into this track, if anybody else is out there who has not yet submitted a track, put it in the spreadsheet now. If you've already sent me a track, I'm cutting you guys off. So no more people who already sent me tracks. But if you are just joining us and would like to get feedback on your track, now is the time to do that. Nice. Yeah, this one sounds really good. I like this one quite a bit, and pretty much any of my feedback in this situation is going to be pretty nitpicky. I'm like really kind of like looking for little tiny details. But the first thing that I did notice is that stylistically, you like these big kind of dirty kick drums. This might even be the same kick drum sample, or it sounds very similar to the kick drum sample from the last song you played. That's one of the cool things about hearing multiple tracks by the same person when giving feedback, is I can start to notice certain trends or stylistic choices that you make. So if you really love that dirty kick drum, go for it. If we're up to me, I might clean it up a tiny bit, and I think that way it'll fit into the mix a little bit better. But if that's your thing, then that's your thing. I do think you can go a bit heavier on your side chaining from your kick, especially during your more kind of drop sections. I think that'll add this nice bit of like pulsing motion. You might be doing a little bit already, but if it were up to me, again, I would go a little bit heavier on the side chain, get a little bit more of that pulsing with a lot of your more kind of like ambient, reverbed, atmospheric sounds. And that'll create this kind of like give and take between the pulsing rhythmic sounds versus the more kind of like constant sounds that are in the background. One thing I really like to do is if you're using return tracks for some of your reverbs and things like that, is put a minor sidechain on the actual track itself, and then put a really heavy sidechain on the reverb. So the reverb is pulsing a lot, but the rest of the sounds are only pulsing a little bit. And that way it creates this weird kind of like different parts of the sound in the space are bouncing up and down with the sidechain slightly differently. Do I think room reverb would help on the kick? Is that what you're asking? Um, Potentially. I mean, I always think more reverb makes everything better, but yeah, I think that yeah, sidechain on the kick, and then what was the other thing I was noticing? Oh yeah, the other thing was baseline. I think the you have a baseline in here. I can hear the low end. It's not really inspiring me though. It's just kind of doing this like dun 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 kind of thing. And so I think that again, if it were up to me, some interesting, weird, distorted, crazy bassline could be a cool addition here to add to the kind of like psychedelic trippiness of the rest of the song. If that's not your vibe, don't feel like you need to do that. But I did just feel like the bass line here, I was okay. But I think that all the rest of the sounds sound amazing. So it kind of stood out to me as the bass line, just like it didn't have as much love put into it as a lot of the other sounds. But yeah, I think a little more reverb, a little sidechain in the reverb could be really good. I like a lot what you're doing to the vocals in both this track and the other track. They both have this really kind of strange atmospheric quality to them, but also while maintaining their kind of melodic quality. So the two of them together, I think, work really well. This part over here, there's two artists that this track kind of reminds me of. One is Quiet Bison, if I'm not mistaken, and the other is Kai Winston, but I don't remember how to spell Winston. It's Kaiwinston, I think. I could be wrong about that. But they both have this similar kind of vibe with this kind of like distorted melodic parts, big distorted kick drum, kind of like hip hoppy kind of beat, but everything's really kind of like weird and psychedelic. Yeah, it definitely has like a bit of like a Quiet Bison kind of vibe to it. There's a few other artists I think are in that kind of realm. So if that's the vibe you're going for, then you're like on the right path. Other than that, I think the rest of your drums sound really good. This part's really cool. I think you could maybe make that transition a little bit more epic. I like what it's doing already, but I think either using some negative space to make it so when the drums come in, it's really loud, or just spicing this little transition up a little bit could go a long way, I think. Because this is really cool. Or like a longer transition there could be kind of cool. Excellent. You can send me any genre you want, any style. Yeah, that's my main piece of feedback. And again, a lot of these are like very minor things. I think overall the track is sounding really polished. But these are, again, if this were my track, some directions I would send it in. But yeah, hopefully that is useful and helpful. Chat, any other thoughts, questions, comments, ideas? Next up, we got X Limit. Nice. Oops, I don't know where that's coming from. So yeah, so a lot of cool things going on in this track. Vibe-wise, I think it's a really actually interesting mix to use the guitar in this track, especially for such a long intro like this. It creates this really interesting expectation of what the song is going to sound like, and then the song goes in like a very different direction. The first thing I noticed here was the vocal processing. So I like what you're doing with the vocal processing here. I don't know if this is you singing or this is you producing or both. Let me know. But I think whoever was processing the vocals went a little bit too over to the top, which is the thing that happens a lot with, especially it sounds like there's some like echoey either reverb or delay. I think if you tone down the effects, not a lot, because the effects are giving you a lot of the character of this song, but just a little bit so that it makes it a little clearer. I think that'll go a long way. So that'll make it easier to hear the vocals a little tiny bit. It also creates more room in the mix so you can hear all the other sounds. Right now, your own vocals, the echoes of your own vocals are getting in the way of your vocals. So turn down the feedback a little bit, turn down the dry wet a little bit. Like I said, not a whole lot, but I think you can definitely get less in there and still make it sound really cool. Like in this section, like we can't even hear the guitar anymore because it's just all vocals on top of vocals on top of vocals. And that's throughout the whole track. So that would be the first thing I'll probably do. That'd make a big difference. I would probably also, once you dial back the effects on the vocals, compress them a tiny bit more. Not a huge amount, but just a little bit. Could be kind of nice. All right, and then I like this section a lot in terms of what's happening. However, the mix feels a bit off. To me, again, the echoing vocals are a little bit too loud, but I can't hear the guitar anymore. And the guitar is adding a lot of cool, interesting, tonal quality and vibe to this track. So a little bit more guitar. Also, your snare is like totally getting lost. I can barely hear it. Yeah, it's there, but it's like way far back in the mix. So crank up the volume on that snare. I also feel like you're using the kind of generic 808 kit, which is 100% okay because it's a classic, and it's a classic for a reason, because it's great and it's amazing and everybody loves it. I think it'd be kind of cool if you layered up your 808 drums with other drums that are maybe not necessarily 808s, especially with that snare, and that'll add a bit more unique quality to it. Right now, it just sounds a little bit just kind of like right out of the box. So a little more processing on the drums, a lot more volume on the snare. Your kick, I think, is working okay. The kick sounds a little distorted to me, which again, that could be totally fine if that's the vibe you're into. If you're me, I might turn down the distortion on the kick just a hair. Yeah, I think a lot of parts of the mix will become a lot more clear and a lot more audible once you tone down those effects on the vocals. Those vocal effects are just taking up so much room. And then I kind of like this little section here where you do this weird little like filter out. Especially when it comes back in. I think it works well when it's kind of fading back in. And then I really like this section right here. This little bridge you have with the guitar. This sounds great. Into this little section down here with the bass coming at the end. I honestly feel like you could use this as a bridge. Like you could, if you don't want to like write another verse, you could take this little guitar part and put it in between your two verses and use that as your bridge. Or you could add another verse at the end. And that way, instead of this just being the outro, this is just like in the middle of the song because it's really cool. And then you go back into a verse and then you use this as the outro. Something like that could be kind of cool. Just to kind of like break up some of the vocals a little bit, and also to make the guitar, again, feature more as part of the song, because I think the guitar is really cool and it works really well in like giving it this kind of like rock meets some kind of like weird hip hop meets a little bit of electronic music meets a little bit of like, I don't know, it's got a lot of things going on, and the guitar I think is the spice that really kind of ties the whole thing together. So make sure that's a main feature. Yeah, definitely. Excellent. I think that it's a cool track. It's a cool concept. I think it's working really well. It's just a little bit of minor production tweaks will go a long way. So if you end up going back and working on this some more and changing it, let me know. or you can kind of take some of that knowledge and some of those ideas into future tracks you end up working on. All right. So at this point, we've gotten once again through everybody on the spreadsheet. Gunya, I know you have one more track in there, but we've already listened to like 4 of your tracks. So I'm going to save that track to next week for you. And I'm going to kind of start winding things down here. I do want to hang out for another couple minutes. If there's anybody who has not yet shared a track who would like to share one, now would be the time to get into it. This is kind of like the last call. But I appreciate all you guys showing up here, sending me tracks. A bunch of people who are return track senders, and a bunch of people who send tracks for the first time. I appreciate all you guys. So to hear what makes this whole thing worthwhile and fun and interesting. But I will be back next week on Tuesday for another hangout and talk about music production stream. And after that, I'll be gone for like a week and a half. So there will be no Friday feedback stream for the next 2 weeks because I will be out of town and doing things. Although maybe we'll do one on like a Thursday or Wednesday next week. We'll see. There might be a surprise feedback stream next week on a random day, but there will not be the normal Friday feedback stream. So this is your chance to get in for a while. But I hope you guys take that time to work on a bunch of new tracks and then send me those tracks when I come back, which will be in like mid-September, basically. But yeah, that's going to be it for today. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for all of these songs, and thanks for giving each other feedback. That's what makes this whole thing worthwhile. I appreciate all you guys, and I will see you on Tuesday, hopefully, if you guys are around. But yeah, thanks for watching, and have a good weekend. Yeah, you're gonna have a couple weeks, so let's see something. All right. Hope everybody has a good weekend. Take care of yourself. Stay hydrated. Make some music. I'll see you guys.